If you're just starting out in car photography for the very first time ever and you're constantly overwhelmed with all the kinds of gear and cameras that you can get in order to get started, I'm here to tell you that you actually do not even need to buy a camera because you already own one. And that's going to be your iPhone. In this video, I'm going to be showing you all the things that you need to do in order to get started taking car photos with just your iPhone, something that honestly has become very powerful over the years, and a lot of people overlook this as a starting point. People constantly believe they need to have the newest, greatest camera ever, and they spend thousands of dollars on something that they don't even know if they are going to like. And no amount of money that you spend on gear is going to fix the number one fundamental issue that people have, and that is skill. And this is part of a series where I'm going to be showing you step by step how you can take your bland iPhone photos and turn them into professional looking photos that can stack up against more professional line cameras like my Sony a7 IV. Specifically on this video of the series, we're going to be talking about the settings, the angles, the lighting, and the composition. And I'm going to show you how to set up your phone with the native application to take these photos. So you don't need any special gear or any special applications. And in future videos, I will be covering things like accessories, paid apps, etc. So as we're getting to the settings, I want you to know that I'm using the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this is applicable to any of the iPhone Pro Maxes or even the iPhone Pros that can shoot RAW photos. If you are using the base iPhone models, you're not going to be able to use RAW features, but you can still learn how to compose and light your photos. You don't need to have RAW capabilities. All the RAW images do is give you a lot more information to work with, give you more editing capabilities, and you can still edit photos that come out of the regular iPhones. Just keep that in mind going forward when we're talking through these settings. So for the settings, we want to start off by going into your general settings on your phone, scroll down to the camera application, and on here, there's a lot of different things to look at. A lot of it's for video, which we're not going to touch on in this one, but in the format section, when you go in here, there's camera capture settings. I have the high efficiency turned on as my option. I don't believe it matters which one that you use, just pick whichever one that you want. And then for the photo capture mode, I have it set to 24 megapixels. Below that, there should be a Pro RAW and resolution control setting. You need to make sure that this is toggled on because this is what we're going to be using in the camera app itself. Once you have that stuff set up, go out of the format section and then scroll down to the composition section. Down here, you're going to see grid and level. Make sure both of those are turned on, and I'll talk more about that here in a moment. Now you're going to go over to your camera application, and when you open it up, you're going to see probably a slightly different interface than I do if you're watching this video when it's first published. I'm using the iOS 26 beta, but people are still on the iOS 18. So if you are watching this right now as it's published, this is going to look different. If you're watching this in the future, it's a moot point. Don't worry about it. In the top left-hand corner, you're going to see a format option. When you click on that, it's going to open up a resolution and format option. You have HEIC and RAW, and then for resolution, you have 12 megapixels or 48. You should automatically just select RAW and 48 megapixels because we want to get the maximum resolution out of these images. When you close out of that, then you want to look in the top right-hand corner and click on that menu. This is going to pull up different settings, and the one that we want to focus on here is the live photos. We do not want on. This is for special effects, things that iPhones can do. We want to make sure that's turned off. And so to turn it off, you need to make sure you tap it until you see a line going through it. That means it's completely turned off. And that's all that you need to do as far as settings are concerned. When it comes to the settings that we turned on earlier, you're going to notice a little grid pattern on your screen. This is going to help you compose your images properly by using what's called the rule of thirds. And basically all that means is you have a top row, a middle row, and a bottom row. 1/3 of the image between each row. And then you're also going to have two vertical lines that kind of makes this little pound symbol or hashtag if you want to say hashtag. And traditionally, you want to have your subject that you're taking a photo of in the middle of the photo because that's the focal point of the image. Now, this is just the general way you can do it. There are different ways that you can compose your image to make a more unique look. But for iPhones, they only have the ability to do this basic grid pattern, whereas other cameras and other applications have a little bit more features in there when it comes to composing your image other ways. But for this video, we're just gonna focus on the basics. I'm not gonna overwhelm you in this video, I promise. You'll also notice in the middle too, that there's this little line that teeters back and forth as you move your phone. And at a certain point, it highlights yellow. This is that level setting that we turned on earlier. And what this is going to do is help you keep level with the horizon as you're taking photos, because you don't want to have your photo off kilter, because then you have to correct that later on and that crops in your image and it cuts out some detail. Unless you're going for a very specific look like the Dutch angle, which I will show you a picture of that on screen of what that looks like. This is where you intentionally turn the phone or the camera to a specific angle to make it look a little bit more dramatic. But that's, again, a little bit more advanced, and that's not the purpose of this video. The next step that we are going to talk about is the lens selection. So iPhones have 4 different selections by default. You have the 0.5, the 1, the 2, and the 5. We're primarily going to focus on the 1x lens. This is your main lens, which is at a 24mm focal length. It's just wide enough to get a good establishing shot. So basically you're going to show off where the car is located at using this type of focal length. You can also do it in the 0.5, which is an ultra wide angle shot, but I recommend not doing that because it will distort your image a little bit. So just try and use the 1x one. The 2x zoom is going to be more of a telephoto zoom, which is 50mm or roughly around there, which is the natural perspective of the human eye. So the photos you take with this focal range is going to look more natural to the viewer. However, on iPhones, it crops in the original image. So you're no longer going to get the full 48 megapixels. You're actually going to get slightly less, which I don't know the number, but if I find out, I'll put it up on screen for you. But that's okay, because although we are wanting to get the most quality out of these images, when you post this stuff to social media, because there's a 99% chance that's all you care about, social media actually doesn't care how many megapixels your image has. I've seen people post 12 megapixel images, 24, 48, 100. So don't look at this as a bad thing, because the only way that you're gonna tell the difference between quality is if you're going to go print these images, because with 48 megapixels, you have a lot more information there versus whatever that number is. The 5x zoom one, I recommend not touching at all, because this is going to be a digital zoom. Now this is going to reduce the quality of your image by a lot. And I've personally tried this out myself, and it just looks grainy and pixelated, and we don't want to mess with that. Hi there, this is Joe's editor, the guy that he doesn't pay enough. And I'm here to tell you that he is actually wrong. And the 5x zoom lens is also a 12 megapixel image, and it's not digital zoom. Digital zoom doesn't happen until roughly 6x to 7x. So you are okay to use the 5x zoom. It is going to be the equivalent of 120mm focal length. So there you go. This guy makes mistakes. I don't know. Go away now. Okay, bye. The 0.5x one is the ultra wide, which earlier we talked about we don't want that to be for establishing shots because it will distort the image. However, the special use case here is if you're up close to the car itself, say you're getting a detail shot of the wheel, a logo, a taillight, whatever, you can get some really interesting angles and use the 0.5x lens to get a really nice distorted look to the photo and make it look unique. I personally do this a lot and I really like it. So that's kind of like an edge case where you would use that lens. iPhones have a tendency to adjust the exposure levels when you're taking photos. So there is a feature that's baked into the camera app itself called exposure lock. All you have to do is tap and hold on any part of the screen, and you're going to see this little yellow box pop up on screen where you can control the exposure levels with this little slider. You're definitely going to want to use that a lot, so you lock in what your exposure level is using the native app. Otherwise, you're going to get inconsistencies with your light if you're taking multiple photos. Paid applications give you a lot more control in this area. So in a future video where I do talk about paid applications, I will go more in depth on how you can control exposure levels. But for native application users, just use that. It's very simple. Tap and hold, change the scroll, and then you can adjust for your shadows or for your highlights. Now that we got the settings out of the way, let's talk about the first part of this equation, which is your composition. You can compose your image however you want, but ultimately what we're trying to do is draw attention to the object itself that we're taking photos of. Cars are an everyday thing for people to look at. So if you're just walking out from the store, pick up your phone and you take a picture of the car as you stand, and then you post that online, unless it's something that's super exotic, a lot of people are not going to care about it because it just looks bland. And then if you think that that's all you got to do, you need to think more in depth of how you can make the car look more interesting. So you want to compose your photo in such a way where people want to look at it and it looks very unique versus what they see every single day. There are very basic angles that I like to capture even if I'm not using my phone, if I'm just using my professional camera, for instance, and I like to start out wide. So I like to go around the car in like this 360 format, and I'm taking pictures from the front, the rear, and the sides. This is going to give you really simple establishing shots and show off the entire car from a 50-foot perspective. So you have your head-on shot looking at the front or the rear of the car, you have your side shots, which is the silhouette of the car, and then you also have a 3/4 angle shot, which is a very popular one for cars, and you can do that from the front or from the rear. I also like to, with these angles, get down a little bit lower to the ground than if I'm just standing up. So I can either just crouch, or if I want to be very dramatic with my angle, I can go all the way down to the ground, resting my phone on the ground to get that upward shot. You can also do more of a top-down shot where you put your arms above your head and you're taking a picture from up top. I'm 6'3" and I put my hands up. I'm looking at a perspective of, say, somebody who's 6'7", 6'9", something like that. So you change the kind of angle looking at the car itself, and I just go around the car getting as many photos as I can get at a wider angle. So that way when I go later to check out the images, I can pick which ones I want. And we're gonna be doing this with the 1x zoom lens, by the way. So this is that 24mm focal range that we're talking about earlier. From that, I like to go closer to the car and get more detailed shots. I personally love detailed shots so much because I like to pay attention to the details that a lot of people overlook. This can be logos, it can be the wheels, the brake calipers, the sticker on the windows. Like, there's so many different things you can take a picture of when you're up close, and that other people may never notice. And I've gotten compliments as well in the past from other people, like, how do you know what to look for? I just simply look at the car up close. So get a lot of those detail shots to show off the character of the car and also the character of the person who owns the car. And this also applies to interior shots too. So I like to take pictures of the steering wheel, the shift knob, anything that's hanging from the rear view mirror, like a little accessory or something. And then there's like any stickers in the car. You can also take pictures of the car seats if there's like embroidery on it, just details of the car that a lot of people tend to overlook. This is also where you can get creative with the 0.5 times lens, the ultra wide angle. You can get really low to the ground, looking up at, say, the wheel and take a picture and get this really cool dramatic look with it. Play around with it. You can also do that kind of stuff inside the interior if you want to get the full look of the interior. Say you're in the back seat of the car, you want to get the full picture of the front dash and front window. That is a use case where I would use the ultra wide lens. And the next part of shots I like to get are telephoto compressed shots. So this is where we're going to be using the 2 times lens, where we're going to step back away from the car and we can get the same exact angles that we got before when we were doing the establishing shots, but just zoomed in a little bit. And what this does is it compresses the image and also gives you a different perspective of the car itself because of that compression. It's very difficult to do that in iPhones because it doesn't have a physical lens like a professional camera does. But just to give you an example, if I were to zoom in my camera right now, this is a more compressed shot of the same exact thing. So everything's a little bit more zoomed in, but it's more compressed. The background is a little bit blurry, so it gives it a unique look. So for the 2 times zoom lens on iPhone, it's gonna be hard to replicate what you can do with a traditional lens, but you still want to do that because, like I said earlier, the 2 times zoom lens is roughly 50mm, which is the more natural perspective of the human eye. So things are gonna look different even though there's not a physical lens attached to your camera. So go around, do the same thing, front, sides, 3/4 angle, top down, down low, looking up at the car. Just do everything that you can do at that zoom range. And then also do the same thing for the interior. So I like to have the windows down in the car. Anything that I can see through the window inside the car, I'm going to take a picture of as well. Steering wheel, accessories on the mirror, whatever it is that you can see. Do a telephoto, compressed shot looking into the interior from the outside of the car, and just play around with the angles. Now that we talked about the first part of this formula, which is the composition, we're now going to talk about lighting, which I think is hands down probably the most overlooked part about photography, and we're literally changing how the light is perceived when it comes to photography. Lighting when it comes to cars is very difficult because majority of the time you're taking pictures of a car outside in the elements. So midday, sun is super harsh and super bright. You're not going to want to be doing that when you're taking pictures of cars unless you have a special filter. We're not going to be talking about that in this video. We're just using the phone as it is. That would be a later conversation. So if you're shooting in broad daylight, you're going to want to move yourself to a shaded area so you don't get as many reflections and harsh lights hitting the car. It's going to completely ruin the image overall. Ideally, you would want to shoot during what's called golden hour. So if you don't know what golden hour is, basically it's just the hour leading from sunrise and then the hour leading to sunset. So there's two different times of day where you can achieve golden hour shoots. And there's actually a really nice free resource that I personally use to find out where the sun is going to be at what time and even what angle is the shadow going to be based on the location that I pick. I'll leave it linked in the description down below if you want to go use it for yourself. The reason why we want to shoot during golden hour is because you have more diffused light and your highlights and your shadows look a lot more smooth, a lot more buttery, and you're gonna have a lot less harsh reflections on the car itself. So this is why it's ideal to shoot during golden hour. Hi, it's me again. One thing that Joe did forget to mention is that you can also shoot during overcast days because that's when the sun is not as intense, but you still have a good amount of light. And overcast days is probably the best way to counteract broad daylight because you have clouds covering everything. So that is something that you can do. And a lot of photographers that I personally know love overcast days. So you're not subjected to just golden hour if you don't want to do just golden hour. All right, we're gonna get back to this. I'm not even on my first cup of coffee yet. Bye. If you want to get more moody look, you can also just shoot at night, say in a well-lit area, say at a parking garage or out on the street. You can definitely take advantage of that and get more of a moodier look. Just be sure that you're not going to park your car anywhere where there's going to be a bright, harsh light on the surface itself to turn everybody away from the overall image. There's definitely a lot of different ways that you can approach lighting, but these are just the basics, and I want you to just learn the basics and then build on it as you get better. But lighting and composition are two of the fundamental things a lot of people fail at. So in this, I want to make sure that you're going to maximize the capabilities of your phone by increasing the capabilities of your skill, because that's where a lot of people lack. And some extra tips on this, iPhones have the ability to do what's called burst mode. So if you want to take multiple photos in sequential order, say you're doing a motorsport event, you can do that on the phone. That is a setting you can turn on in the settings itself. And that's something that you can also do for rolling shots. So if you don't want to just do static shots and you want to do rolling shots, you can accomplish that with the phone. And I think this goes without saying, but you need to clean your lenses, especially on your phone, because they get smudgy very easily. So make sure that you're cleaning these before you're actually going to shoot photos. I do have a really nice cleaning kit that I personally use that's inexpensive, so I'll leave a link for that down in the description below. You can also use portrait mode, which portrait mode on iPhones is more for taking pictures of people. You can do that with cars because all it does is blur the background behind the car, but sometimes it's not very accurate, and also it's not very good to look at. There are ways to blur the background of your image in editing, which is a subject that we'll cover in the next video. So be sure to stick around for that if you're interested in it. But I highly recommend maybe just not using portrait mode at all when it comes to taking photos, because artificially blurring the photo, it can be a little bit fickle. So hopefully by watching this video, you've now learned the basics of how to set up your phone to take the highest quality photos possible, and maybe learn a few things about the angles and the composition of your photos. But what I want you to do is I want you to go out today, tomorrow, this weekend, and I want you to actually practice what you've learned in this video, because if you don't apply this, you're not going to really retain it very well. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can edit your photos on your phone using free applications. So if you would like to see that, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below to stay in tune with what's going on. And also, if you found value in this video, please be sure to hit the like button down below. Leave a comment if you got thoughts or questions on it. Obviously, I will do my best to answer everything I can, but I really just want to make this video to help get people started. And then later on, we will be talking a little bit more about all the different things to maximize your capabilities with your phone. So until then, I will see you next time.